Hey guys, this is Soph. I'm your ELA and unit coordinator for abnormal psychology this teaching period. It's lovely to meet you online. Hopefully I'll be seeing lots of you over the discussion boards over the next 12 or 13 weeks. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. This is a sensational unit that you're enrolled in this time. It's my favourite unit of all the psychology ones, so I hope you enjoy it too. We cover some really interesting stuff in abnormal psychology, so lots of disorders that you will have heard of and some perhaps that you haven't. So just bear in mind, some of these disorders you may have either experienced yourself first or second hand, so it can be super interesting but also a little bit tricky, and I'd love you to share on the discussion board, but don't get too tempted to overshare or say anything that you might regret later. And if you need any help about anything to do with the topics along the way, then just let me know. I'll be super available to you this teaching period, both on the discussion boards and via email. I really encourage you to use the discussion boards as much as possible. So these are the best way to share amongst each other and to learn from each other through the discussion boards. Try and leave the email to me just for things like, extensions and that kind of thing. I tend to, if people do ask questions via email about the assessments or anything like that, I tend to copy it onto the discussion board anyway, so just keep that in mind, just so that it's useful and helpful to everybody else. Also, I'm going to, on the discussion boards this teaching period, try something again, which we tried last teaching period and it worked super well, which is to get you guys to write a question on the discussion boards each week. So I'm going to have a wiki set up that you'll be able to see when you go into your learning group. And you can sign up to a little table where you pick a couple of weeks that you're interested in, the topics of different weeks, and you'll be responsible for posting a question, anything to do with the learning materials that week. So it worked really well last teaching period. People were very supportive, and I know you've got lots to do, but you can have a quick bash at some of these questions. And by fabulous fortune, a couple of the questions, or quite a few of the questions, actually touched on things that were directly covered in the exam. So that was a really nice thing to see along the way as well. Of course, I didn't mention it as we went along, but it was really good that you'd covered those things yourselves that were going to be seen in the exam. As for the assessments, I know you're all interested in the assessments. There's some interesting assessments in this subject. 2 of them are group assessments. So your very first assessment that's due is a group PowerPoint presentation, mostly on some topics that are not covered within the rest of your learning materials. So some of the more obscure disorders, I guess you could say, or lesser well-known disorders. So your research techniques will get a good workout. And then in the same group, you'll do a brochure on the same topic later in the teaching period. So you get some feedback from the first one from me, and you can incorporate that into your second assignment. If there's anyone you particularly want to work with, perhaps shoot them an email or whatever. I'll have a sign-up available probably by the end of week 1, a little wiki sign-up for that assessment. Don't panic if you don't know anyone. It doesn't matter. You can just join any of the groups, and it'll be a good way to get to know some more people. Quite a few of you have probably been studying for a while with Swinburne Online now, seeing this is a third-year subject, so you might have some people that you like to work with, but some of you will be relatively new or just haven't come across any of your peers that happen to be in your learning group just yet. What else is there to say? The exam, I can't even bear to think about the exam. I feel like we've just marked exams from last teaching period, but I know people are always interested. So the exam is mostly multiple choice. Not mostly actually, it's 50% multiple choice, and it's 50% on 2 very, very short essays. So as I said, you'll cover some really interesting stuff this teaching period, so hopefully you'll all be fairly engaged in the learning materials as we go along. The other major assessment is an individual critical review, so a 3,000 word essay, and there'll be lots and lots of help available for that along the way. What else do I need to tell you? I wrote a couple of things. The DSM-5 is our main sort of resource apart from the textbook this teaching period. So you'll get very used to looking up the various disorders for any of the assessments and exams in the DSM-5, and you'll get to know them thoroughly. We tend to focus mostly on diagnostic criteria and sort of signs and symptoms, and epidemiology, so what are the risk factors and what are the stats in, sort of point prevalence and lifetime prevalence of various disorders across the world. And the other thing we really look at, is the causal risk factors for things. So in the different assessments and throughout the weekly learning materials, we're often looking at what are the possible causes for the various disorders that we're looking at. And these are, generally pretty complicated. There's not one cause for any particular disorder. There's a variety of things: psychological factors, genetic factors, biological factors, so forth. What else? I reckon that's about it, guys. Work really hard. This, as I said, it's a third-year subject. Many of you are probably hoping to go on to further study in psychology, and if any of you are interested in honours or masters, universities tend to give the highest weighting to the third-year subjects. So even if you fuzzed a couple of those early ones, you can really make up for it now in third year. I should have probably introduced myself a little bit more. I've also done this on the discussion boards, but I'm actually doing my honours in psychology now and hoping to go on to study a master's either in clinical or counselling psychology, or perhaps health psychology, with a fallback option of social work if none of that pans out. So, I know how you're all feeling. I'm very recently from an undergraduate myself. This is my third time teaching this unit and my second time as the unit coordinator. And I really love it. So I hope you do too. And, be super active, and I would love to hear lots from you. All right. Ciao, guys. Good luck.